If the opponent has Ice Beam, so be it. In Typhlosion, I believe Typhlosion hits the field of play. The opponent not wanting to concede a farm down. Send out Clodsire. Typhlosion going to be invested in the final Protect Shield. And it's time to put Clodsire's bulk to the test. Clodsire, you, sir, might think you're thick. Typhlosion asks, are you thick enough? Blast Burn picks up that one-hit KO. Get that Clodsire off my screen. Feraligatr, insanely low dribbling at absolute full health, but Typhlosion, smelling blood in the water, one incinerate and the blast burn. High dribbling, by dribbling, back out comes Feraligatr, and that is going to be a full Typhlosion sweep. GG's, and thanks for playing. Welcome back to the channel. Content has been insanely slow on the channel recently for two reasons. I've been inundated with work. I work at a university and it is graduation. I've been doing 12-hour shifts back to back and I was insanely tired. Reason number two actually has nothing to do with my lack of free time, more to do with my lack of motivation. I'm sure if you've watched even one of my videos recently, you know I'm horrendously annoyed at how bad the game state is currently. But I can't blame my poor plays completely on game state. I've got lack of motivation to play and I often find myself not counting and I'm just making so many mistakes and essentially playing like a potato. I actually didn't battle for over a week when I was working a graduation event at work. I picked the game back up last weekend where I streamed some sets on Discord and my starting elo was 2300. Not saying I'm the best batter in the world, however 2300 is very low by my standards at this point in the season. My sets on Discord went reasonably well where we went 9-1 back to the 2400s. The next day, I stuck with the same team, the team you can see on the screen. This team, of course, is made famous by the one and only nobonfireahead, my good friend. He hit legend with it back in season 18. I've personally ran this team at least once every single season since then and it has always performed phenomenally well. Kit Kat Deluxe actually hit legend with this team back last season, season 22. The advice I always give to anyone looking to improve the game is stick a team out, learn it inside out, and you will find success. As I'm playing particularly terribly, I wanted to run a team that I know inside out, hope to make some good plays and gain elo, and I did exactly that. Without any further ado, let's get into the battles. And in game one, my Chesnaught stares down Greninja. We are off to a good start. The opponent says no thank you, save switch into Dusclops, and it looks like I have the perfect alignment as here comes Drapion. Despite this matchup being Shadow and Shadow Crime, Drapion easily tanks two non-stab Ice Punches. I throw one Poison Sting and the Crunch for optimal fast move time, and Crunch goes unshielded and rocks them into the red health range. We know we survive another Ice Punch, however there are going to be two Hexes off the next move, so what I should do here is 3 Poison Stings and the Aqua Tail. I end up making my first mistake of the video. I should have thrown the Aqua Tail on CMP and then I wouldn't have been forced to go down a Protect Shield. I do shield, of course. We don't want Typhlosion aligned against Greninja. We land the Crunch, send back out Chesnaught. The opponent pivots into Jump Bluff. I actually think they top left a little bit hasty there, but I'm not complaining. And we're off to a 1-0 start. In the next battle, we see Morpeko in the lead position. The opponent save switch into Lapras. I'm going to fire off the Super Power. Hope to obtain a shield advantage before save switching into Drapion. We get that shield advantage, which is beautiful for me. Because when I run this team, what I look to do is force as many shields as possible. Save my shields for Typhlosion and hope to cook absolutely everything. Drapion fires off the Crunch and actually gets the defense drop, which is only a 20% chance now, so pretty fortunate if I'm being brutally honest, but that should set up a perfect 2 Incinerate farm down for Typhlosion. Then Typhlosion's got an energy lead and a shield advantage. Typhlosion Incinerate farms down before the Sparkling Aria is reached and back out comes Morpeko. No messing around, we go straight for the Blast Burn. Blast Burn forces the opponent's final Protect Shield. Typhlosion absolutely smelling blood in the water. This, of course, going to be the Psychic Fangs, but let me tell you that no bait is ever saving Morpeko's fate. Typhlosion outpaces to Blast Burn number 2, and have no doubt, Morpeko gets vanquished. Back to its Pokeball, out comes Jump Bluff. The opponent is never ever fair win farming me down. We reach the Blast Burn, and the opponent concedes the match. Heading into the next battle, we see Diggersby in the lead position. This is why I love this team. Is Chesnaught ranked well on PvPoke? No it's not. However, what it does do is beat so many top meta threats. This bloody turtle just wins lead after lead. This big fat bunny is at least looking to fake a Hyper Beam. If they've got a Hyper Beam, so be it. Thankfully, it's only a Fire Punch. I don't really like shielding Chesnaught, but this Diggersby is far too healthy for my backline. Chesnaught is on the team to beat the ground type, so I do invest the Protect Shield, kind of reluctantly. We then overfarm, fire off the next Frenzy Plant. Frenzy Plant removes Diggersby from the field of play. Out comes Jellicent. Trainer! What the heck does this opponent do against any grass type? Well, clearly we're finding out here, not particularly much. We fire off the Frenzy Plant, forcing that Protect Shield, and then make the pivot into Drapion, looking to bait out whatever that third is. I reckon it's probably something else weak to grass. Why the heck else would you send Jellicent into a Chesnaught? The opponent continues to stay in, so I fire off the Crunch, doing almost Jellicent. Remaining HP Surf removes me from the field of play, and that's just a free Incinerate for Typhlosion. I wait on my clock, send out Typhlosion, we get that Incinerate farm down, and whatever's in the back, clearly not a fan of Typhlosion as the opponent concedes the match. In the next battle, another 1 lead, but a problematic save switch. Whilst this thing does have access to Aerial Ace, hardly anyone runs it. If I get Aerial Aced here, I'd be very sad, but thankfully it's just an X's that hits for neutrals, fighting resist bug, and grass does take super effective. I fire off the Frenzy Plant once again, obtaining a shield advantage before pivoting into Drapion. Not only did I force a shield advantage, the Vine Whips, and a few residual poison things that will put this Gliscopod into Crunch range. I tank the Aqua Jet over farm, fire off the Crunch, and to my surprise, the opponent invests the final Protect Shield, saving Gliscopod and pivoting back out into Steelix. Steelix greeted with the Aqua Tail before they Thunderfang farm me all the way down. This Steelix is now switch locked with no shield, and I have a 2 to no shield advantage. Of course, it is Typhlosion time. I often die with 2 shields, so despite Psychic Fangs being non-stab and not the hardest hitting move, I am going to invest the Protect Shield and cover myself for any potential fast move pressure in the back. Typhlosion gets that farm down, leaving absolutely loaded. Out comes Moltres. The opponent makes a very nice catch, catching the Blast Burn back onto Gliscopod. Down goes Gliscopod. I reset that debuff and send out Chesnaught. If I'm being brutally honest, I think that's a pretty shitty play. Potentially find on my own lose con. However, this superpower is still going to do massive damage, put them in a range where 1 Incinerate should knock out, and regardless, we're always going to sneak. So I'm going to just shield this up, even if they're doubled up. Typhlosion would win charge attack priority, but the Incinerate does knock them out, and we take that game. Heading into the next battle, we see Marowak in the lead position. The opponent save switches into Sizzle. Despite me having a fire type, Sizzle users love to shield everything, so we fire off the superpower, obtain that shield advantage before sending out Typhlosion. This now puts the opponent in such a tough spot. They're already down 1 Protect Shield. They know we've got a Chesnaught, so potentially this Blast Burn is just going to remove this Marowak from the field of play. They could shield, to be honest. Potentially they're double weak to fire, but regardless, we're more than happy to get the opponent all shields down, and then we're in a 2 versus 1 scenario, and this Marowak cannot touch my Chesnaught. I send back out Chesnaught. The opponent will be temporarily switch locked, so we're just going to use Chesnaught to absorb the energy. The opponent fire off the rock side, that does absolutely nothing, and out comes Dugong. Dugong going to be greeted with the Frenzy Plant. As I'm going to pivot out, I probably should have superpowered, but it is what it is. We then send out Drapion, 1 draw on, very easily survivable, but of course the opponent ever horny for the debuff, they fire off the Icy Wind, we don't respect shit, and the opponent concedes the match. In the next battle, we finally lose a lead, but we've got 2 very good answers for a Bomber Snow. We say switch into Drapion. Here I could have went straight for the Crunch, getting it off before they Icy Wind me, but I always like to hold my energy to have it good to go for whatever they counter swap. The opponent sends out Big Man Blastoise. As we're debuffed, these Crunches really aren't doing much of anything. However, the second one will put them in a nice little range where we can farm them down with our Chesnaught and get the superpower ready for that return in the Bomber Snow. This will once again set up a shield advantage for Typhlosion. This opponent very unlikely to have a ground type in the back, or especially not a Mud Slapper, because they'd be ABA weak to Talonflame. That is kind of common. We're going to send out Chesnaught, tank the Hydro Cannon, commit to the farm down. Unfortunately, we're not quite at the superpower, but we are going to fire off a superpower before making that pivot. As always, looking to obtain that shield advantage. Superpower does exactly that. Typhlosion hits the field of play, and out comes Toxapex. This is why it's always important to try and obtain a shield advantage for your Typhlosion in the closer position. Of course, if the opponent still had 2 shields, we'd be sitting in a rough spot. However, the opponent makes my life very easy, throwing on alignment, giving me a free Incinerate sneak. Me, unlike my opponent, I'm going to look to throw out good timing, which of course, using a 5-turn move into a 2-turn move is 1 Incinerate and the charge move. We overfarm, fire off the Thunder Punch. Thunder Punch removes them from the field of play. 1 Incinerate knocks out a Bomber Snow, and we take that game. Heading into the next battle again, we see a tough lead. We're going to say switch into Drapion, baiting out Charger Bug. Drapion wastes no time, goes straight for that Crunch. Crunch does a lot of damage. It does easily 2-shot in this matchup. To be honest, with the Poison Stings, 1 Crunch and an Aqua Tail should be enough to get the job done. I fire off the Aqua Tail and look to pressure the first Protect Shield of the game. The opponent obliges, putting up that Protect Shield. Unfortunately, unable to reach the next Aqua Tail, we're just going to absorb the energy on Chesnaught. Chesnaught going to do a pretty decent job of being a damage sponge. The Volt Switches are resisted and the X's is only hit for neutral. The fact they're resisting my Vine Whips actually works out better for me as well, as it's going to leave enough farm for me to have a Frenzy Plant ready to chuck at that returning balloon. Whilst Frenzy Plant is resisted, Frenzy Plant's one of the most busted moves in the game and does like half their health. They're all down 1 Protect Shield, so they should go unshielded. You can see it puts them into the yellow. We pivot into Typhlosion, the opponent going to debuff me with the Icy Wind, but Typhlosion just going to shield anyway. The opponent then pivots out into Drapion, and I'm not baiting. Does the opponent respect the damage? Blast Burn, even debuffed, almost picks up the 1-hit KO. We Incinerate farm down Drapion, Incinerate farm down Drifblim, and I will be emerging victorious. In the next battle, we see another Man of Culture running Typhlosion in the lead position. Of course, that is a big fat yikes and an instant pivot into Drapion. We're able to fire off the Aqua Tail, obtaining me a shield advantage. I'm hoping I survive a Thunder Punch, but a Shadow and Shadow Crime, even my rank 1 Drapion just about gets knocked out. I think that's actually IV dependent, to be honest. I've used this team a lot, and often you will see when Typhlosions make that mistake of firing off a Thunder Punch, I usually survive, but it is what it is. Out comes Moltres, we fire off the Thunder Punch, make the pivot into Chesnaught, attempting to snipe with some resisted Vine Whips, but unfortunately unable to do so. We match Protect Shields, and now this actually isn't a bad position, because if Typhlosion returns, we would be able to superpower and either knock him out or force the final Protect Shield of the game. However, the opponent plays this really smartly, sending out Drifblim. Despite Frenzy Plant being busted, it isn't going to pressure the final Protect Shield of the game, and this one is going to end in defeat. Wincon's pretty non-existent at this point. You can see their Typhlosion's healthier than mine. I didn't shield up Chesnaught because that would have given them the shield advantage and would have lost regardless. So GG's to that opponent. Heading into the next battle, we are playing my Gym Breakers teammate, Gary Cabbage. He seems to have a habit of kicking my ass, but so far this battle isn't looking too promising for him. He attempts to catch the Frenzy Plant onto his Ferret. Catch attempt unsuccessful. I fire off the superpower and then pivot into Drapion. Drapion going to get a massive Poison Sting farm down. So if he sends back out Marowak, this Marowak is going to be faced with death by Aqua Tail spam. 1 Poison Sting and the first Aqua Tail. Aqua Tail hits are super effective. The first one forced the Protect Shield, but Drapion says there's plenty more of where that came from. 1 further Poison Sting and the next Aqua Tail, rocking Marowak deep into the red health range. As we got the correct alignment, I don't think anyone's mad enough to run ABA Mud Slap. We should be in a great position. He sends out Fortress. We show him Typhlosion, and I'm so sorry, Gary. This is definitely an RPS loss. No skill required. I just had the correct alignment. We're going to Incinerate, farm down everything, and take that game. In the next battle, we see Fortress in the lead position. I think here I should definitely pivot out. However, if you are going to stay in, you might think this is a weird play, but I'm going to allow the opponent to throw first. I could superpower and dip, but then the opponent will just have a huge amount of energy, and the energy is quite threatening to Drapion. Most run Sand Tomb, but an Earthquake would, of course, pretty much 1-hit KO. Even at -1, the superpower does quite a lot of damage, potentially still putting them in a range where a Crunch will be lethal. And as they dump their energy, we are able to outpace to said Crunch, and we do force the first Protect Shield of the game. This isn't enough for an Earthquake, it's just a Rock Tomb, which we're able to survive. I commit to their Crunch, and we just about get there. As this Crunch is -1, it won't quite be lethal, but does put them very deep into the red health range. We always say switching to Drapion to check for any ground type. The opponent didn't send one out, so I'm more than happy to send out Typhlosion, get a 1 Incinerate running start, thinking they haven't got a good check for us. They send out Lapras, while Thunder Punch is super effective. Blast Burn will do more. We fire off the Blast Burn, almost picking up the 1-hit KO. I attempt to snipe with Chesnaught. Snipe attempt unsuccessful. I invest the Protect Shield, thinking 2 Pokemon versus 1 will be a better play. The opponent sends out Pidgeot. They tank the super, and now it's going to be a fast move beatdown to the finish. Incinerate versus Gust. Who will prevail? Apparently no one, and the game ends in a tie. GG's that opponent. Heading into the next battle, we see Greninja in the lead position. If this opponent save switches into Dusclops, like the last opponent did, I hope that I play this matchup far better than I did last time. This opponent, to my surprise, actually looked to stay in before pivoting into Dusclops. We're going to fire off the Frenzy Plant. As of the regular, I don't dislike that Frenzy Plant chip and dip, because it does put them in a range where one singular Crunch will remove them from the field of play. The opponent fire off the Ice Punch. You can see as they're not Shadow, these Ice Punches are just pathetic, man. As pathetic as they are, unlike the last battle, I do need to try and remove this Dusclops from the field of play before I have to invest a protection like an absolute potato. We fire off the Crunch. Crunch picks up the knockout. I'm not entirely sure they didn't send out Greninja. Instead, they send out Bastiodon. My switch time is up. Rather than concede a farm down, we are going to pivot back into Chesnaught, recognising Chesnaught completely cooks this backline. I invest a Protect Shield, blocking up the incoming Flamethrower. The opponent then pivots out into Greninja. I imagine they're going to sack it or not. The opponent actually chooses to invest a Protect Shield, and that is more than fine for me. The opponent really trying their best to get rid of Chesnaught. We fire off one further Vine Whip and the next Frenzy Plant. The opponent invests their final protection, one Vine Whip. Remember Drapion, buddy. We make the catch back onto Drapion. Typhlosion literally had nowhere to go into this team, but thankfully it isn't going to be needed, as Chesnaught is going to be able to Vine Whip farm down Greninja's remaining HP. We actually wait out a clock, with the opponent pivots into Bastiodon. That works, buddy. Bastiodon straight in and straight out, and even debuffed. We're still Vine Whip farming down, and we take that game. Heading into the next battle, we found ourselves a new Pokemon that we haven't seen since we used to run this team, Regidrago. Which on paper is a bit of a problem for us. Chesnaught doesn't do fantastically, nor does Typhlosion. We managed to force a Protect Shield with the Super. We then get hit in the face with the Dragon Energy, almost get one shot, and then the opponent makes a very nice catch the Crunch onto a Azumarill. However, I'm not complaining at that play, to be honest. Whilst the catch is very nice, you just switch locked this silly blue mouse against my turtle. This is going to set up an opportunity for Chesnaught to shield up the Ice Beam. I'm then going to throw 7 Vine Whips and the Frenzy Plant. I think I actually should have thrown 4, maybe undercharged. I'm actually capped over 100 energy, but it is what it is. Frenzy Plant picks up the knockout. Back out comes Regidrago. Once again, we're going to Super and dip. Hopefully this time it goes unshielded. Unfortunately, it forced the final Protect Shield, and I'm forced to pivot out. This is probably going to be the Breaking Swipe. We're Typhlosion. Do you think it takes the Breaking Swipe particularly well? It does not. Again, the opponent makes a very nice catch. Catching the Blast Burn onto Clodsire. And that is one bloody fit Clodsire, man. That Blast Burn didn't do too much damage. Typhlosion going to reach the next Blast Burn. This one will remove them from the field of play. Can we reach the Thunder Punch? Unfortunately, we cannot. We haven't quite got the Super banked. Even if we did, we've got a 119 attack compared to the 121, and we would have lost regardless. GG's to that opponent. Very well played. In the next battle, well, that definitely is not the lead we're looking for, and into the pivot into Drapion. The opponent attempts to catch Naquatel onto a Azumarill. This breaks my heart, man. Drapion without Sludge Bomb really struggles into a Fairy type. You hate to see it. Of course, both Crunch and Naquatel are resisted, but Crunch is the correct move to throw. And it also has a chance of getting the defense shot, which we do get the second time. I really hope here the opponent Ice Beams are not play rough, because Ice Beam is going to be survivable. Even defense drop, this an XL Azumarill as Crunch won't be lethal, but what it does do is put them in a range where we can Vine Whip farm down before they reach an Ice Beam, keeping my Chesnaught at almost full health. Even when you lose lead, I always try and get myself a shield advantage. We haven't got one of them yet, so I stay in when Ninetales returns, and I fire off the Super, and that looks like a charge attack priority. Super, force the Protect Shield, and at -1, I've got 2 choices. Lose Chesnaught or invest the Protect Shield. I'm going to choose the lose Chesnaught and put it all on Typhlosion. Here I'm going to farm up to the double Thunder Punch. Whilst this is alignment, I intentionally farm up to the double. Because logically, you're going to throw back to back. So I pause, ensuring I see Ninetales on the screen. The opponent tried to catch the Thunder Punch, catch attempt unsuccessful. Primeape straight in and straight out, and the opponent concedes the match. In a weird turn of events, despite kind of being RPS, we end up with a weird 2-shield flex. In the next battle, we see the annoying Marshmallow in the lead position. There is nothing I hate more than losing to a bloody Wigglytuff. The opponent banks some energy before sending out Annihilate. We fire off the Crunch. Crunch goes unshielded. I'm going to fire off the Aquatel here, because either way, you know this opponent's shielding. People who run Marshmallows essentially just look to RPS their opponent. The opponent looks for the counter farm down, and Aquatel was certainly the correct players, were able to force both Protect Shields off the opponent here in the mid-game matchup. Despite having a 2-0 shield advantage, I wasn't actually that confident in this battle, because Wigglytuff is often paired with Gastrodon, and as soon as you lose alignment with this team, against a Wigglytuff lead with a Gastrodon on the back, it is curtains for you. However, I'm going to hope the opponent doesn't have Gastrodon. However, they actually give up switch. We're able to save Chesnaught, so even if it is a Gastrodon, potentially we still have play. We send out Typhlosion, of course. The opponent is going to debuff me. With an Icy Wind, we farm up all the way to 100 energy before unleashing the Thunder Punch. Thunder Punch will be moving Wigglytuff from the field of play. Back out comes Annihilate, and I'm just going to knock it out immediately and not take any counter damage. Down goes Annihilate. The opponent sends out Lapras. Lapras going to be greeted with the Thunder Punch. Thunder Punch going to put them in a range where a superpower should knock out. The question is, can we survive 2 Psy Waves? Yes, we can. And we do not lose to Wigglytuff today. GG's, and thanks for playing. Heading into the next battle, we see Drifblim in the lead position. I think a lot of content creators generally chop up their battles and put the best ones first, whereas I kind of put them in whatever order I played in. You can see the first part of this video, or at least the first set, I won all the leads, and after that it seems to go progressively worse, where we're losing a lot of leads. That's kind of how GBL goes, to be honest. In this battle, we saw a terrible lead, but the Drapion save switch goes unanswered as out comes Gator. Of course, Drapion and Gator pace at the same speed to the Hydro Cannon and Crunch respectively, with an energy lead, meaning I could have won that in the 2 shield. However, I always look to save a shield for Typhlosion. I send back out Chesnaught. If the opponent's got Ice Beam, so be it. We're always saving a shield for Typhlosion, and it'll be Typhlosion versus the world. Typhlosion hits the field of play, the opponent not wishing to concede a farm down, send out Clodsire. Clodsire's bulk about to be put to the test. Clodsire, you sir, might think you're thick, but Typhlosion going to ask, are you thick enough? 1 Incinerate and the Blast Burn. Blast Burn removes Clodsire from the field of play. For Alligator now nothing more than a sacrificial swap. The opponent waits out the timer, send out Drifblim. We see the astonished animation reach the Blast Burn. Blast Burn picks up that 1-hit KO. Back out comes Gator. Typhlosion reaches the Thunder Punch and sweeps the entire team. In Typhlosion, I believe. GG's, and thanks for playing. After a string of tough leads, what is this on my screen? Who runs Grumpig in Season 23 after the buff the bug types? We save switch into Drapion. The opponent farm up some energy before sending out Gliscopod. Of course, Gliscopod, by no means a good Drapion answer, especially this far behind on energy. An argument could have been made here that I should have shielded, but I knew I survived that move, and as they're on Shadow Claw, they're not really applying much fast move pressure either. We are going to fire off a Crunch here. Crunch, force your Protect Shield. The opponent's going to get a massive Sidewave farm down, and this is very, very problematic for me. I think what I should actually do is send out Chesnaught. While the Sidewaves are super effective, we could survive any one move, whereas Typhlosion, nah, not really surviving anything. I recognise they're not in Thunder Punch range either, so I very quickly go down both Protect Shields, shielding up back-to-back dynamic punches. The opponent then sends out Turtonator. Come on, man, how am I supposed to beat this? Blast Burn is double resisted and does essentially nothing. Whilst we do make a nice catch, that essentially just my pride points. There's literally no way of getting rid of this thing. Unless, of course, the opponent doesn't shield this. But unless they're a complete potato, they'll recognise Superpower is the hardest hitting move left in the game. We've got a Blast Burn locked and loaded. Blast Burn, a busted move, but double resisted, isn't going to knock him out. And I remember this battle. The opponent gives me that bad manners overheat to the face. To be honest, I respect the spice, buddy. GG's to you, good sir. Heading into the next battle. Come on, game. Chuck me a nice, easy lead. Ask, and you shall not receive. We see another Regidrago. The last time we lost to this, we're hoping for a different outcome. Again, we're going to stay in a Superpower and dip, and then make the pivot into Drapion. Again, the Superpower goes shielded, which is kind of unfortunate, as I really need some damage on this bloody dragon. Last time, we looked to call the break and swipe bait, and the opponent full center dragon energy. Again, my huge balls call the bait, and this time, thankfully, it is just a break and swipe. Then able to fire off the Crunch and reach an Aqua Tail. So this battle is definitely going better than the last one. We actually removed this Regidrago from the field of play, which is best case scenario. Out comes Craydiddy. While Chesnaught will fully wall the moveset, the asses will hit the super effective. I've got a shield advantage. I'm actually going to send out Typhlosion, and you already know there is absolutely zero chance that I'm ever baiting. We shield at the Rock Tomb, full send the Blast Burn. Blast Burn forces the opponent's final Protect Shield. We then farm up, bank a small amount of energy before sending out Chesnaught. My opponent also banks some energy before sending out Metang, but I think that's a mistake because this game is going to end with Metang getting double superpower to the face. The opponent can acid farm me down, but we left only 1 Incinerate off the charge move, and as long as I don't get one turn bring in, this one will end in victory. We sneak the Incinerate as the game's intended, and again, Thunder Punch would of course be enough to get the job done, but you know I'm going to full send the Blast Burn. Is it necessary? Super necessary, and we take that game. In the next battle, Frostlass, what is this like? What is going on? I think the first set we had 5 Commander leads, and after that we found plenty of lost leads with plenty of Pokemon that I haven't seen for many seasons. I can't remember the last time I saw a Frostlass in the Go Battle League. We are talking outside of, what's that cup? Halloween Cup? Probably about 2 years in Open. ABA ISO fire as well, and the opponent gives up on switch, and I think just like that we're probably going to win on the spot, as this Frostlass is now aligned with Typhlosion. This Mad Lad's actually running triple eyes. What a team composition. One Bastion. I think the answer to what this opponent does is top left and pretend it never happened. Warrain takes an absolute eternity to reach the Earthquake, so I'm able to fire off back-to-back Thunder Punches, forcing both protections off the opponent, as they're not even a Shadow Warrain. Icicle Sphere is easily survivable. We're going to reach the Super Power, easily going to pick up that one-hit KO. Back out comes Frostlass. The opponent's going to probably bait me, but at this point, we all know that no bait is ever saving this opponent's fate. They actually fire off the triple axle, but a couple of Incinerates, actually just one further Incinerate removes them from the field of play, and we take that game. And that is just about going to wrap things up for today's video. A huge shout out to the team's creator, the one and only nobonfireahead. If you made it to this point in the video, you'll see even after lost leads, this team is phenomenal. I've been running this team all the way since nobonfireahead first sent me a Season 18 Legend run. It is so much fun and it is so bloody good. It was finally able to get my season back on track. We went from 2300 to almost 2600 in like 7 sets. If you need a strong team, look no further. So if you're enjoying the content, smash that like button. If you're new, consider subscribing if you'd like your battles featured on my channel. A link to our battle submission form is down below. And as always, a huge thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.